the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 69. Like sands through the hourglass, so it is at OpenAI. It's recorded Sunday. You like guys like that one? That was pretty good. Recorded live.
What am I watching? I Love
November
Lucy?
26th, 2023, live from iTechGear Thankfulness Central. As I said, I am Christopher Spera, editor-in-chief over at iTechGear.org, and joining us today, back from running around all over Knoxville and places unknown, Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin. How are you?
I am so tired of traffic. Every bit of traffic in the free world was here on I-40 today.
Oh, I don't
But
know.
speaking of weekends, this has been a fun one, at least half of it. I spent yesterday configuring my new Surface Pro 9 and today fighting traffic in Knoxville. So guess which day I had more fun? Yeah. I hate
fighting traffic.
I'm not, we will get to some of that.
I am just not traffic tolerant. I'm not. Can't do it.
That is awesome. Former co-owner of WUGNET Publications and now editor over at iTechGear.org. Thank you, sir, for all of your wonderful contributions. Really appreciate you. Enjoy seeing the stuff up on the site. Also joining us this week, former contributing editor over at Gear Diary and Pocket Now, Mr. Chris Gavula. How are you, sir?
Oh, we're here. I'm kidding. Doing just fine. Doing just fine. How are you?
I am thankfully, I am very thankful this weekend and thankfully very well.
You're just peachy. That's what you are. Just
all
peachy.
Part of the beginning of the 2023 holiday season, you know.
Yep, we're there.
Oh, we sure are, aren't we?
Yeah. A lot to talk about this week, though, so this is good.
Yes, it is. It is. And we start some pretty cool stuff this week. And our favorite former contributing writer over at Gear Diary and currently host of the Linux Link Tech Show and living in the Retro Arcade podcast, Brother Joe McLaughlin has got some really cool stuff coming up later on in the show.
I sure do. And
you do.
And I'm hoping to get a Retro Arcade show out maybe after this show. I don't know. Cool. I've been, it's the holiday weekend, man. So I've been a little bit busy with cooking and stuff, but so hopefully, I may end up just recording one more show for the rest of the year and take the rest of December off because it's just
I get that.
It's the holiday season.
I get that. And it's time for friends, family, and those you hold close and not necessarily a bunch of old white guys kvetching about tech. I get you.
Oh dear.
Oh boy. I'm altering the Apple segment just a little bit this week because I wanted to go ahead and talk about the whole Sam Altman thing and OpenAI. He's back as CEO of OpenAI, and apparently,
but not without casualties.
Yeah, not without casualties. And interestingly enough, Chris, wouldn't you say? 3 of the 5 board members that were previously on the board, they're out.
But they left the board structure into place, which is interesting. So people know the way that they're structured is they basically have a nonprofit board that oversees the for-profit business.
Right.
And he was CEO of the for-profit business, for lack of a better description. And so for those of us who just a quick summary of the drama, he was basically fired last week. And then the rumor was he was going to go to Microsoft, and
with about 70% of the staff.
Yeah, with a lot of the staff. I was going to say they were following him on his heels. And then there were some negotiations, and now more than half the board is gone and been replaced, and he's back at OpenAI.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting week of drama. And as we kind of talked about a little bit in the pre-show, the reason this is so important is because supposedly the underlying reason was some dispute in how they were handling going forward with technology and announcements, and how this impacts people and all that kind of stuff. There were conversations that the board felt they weren't being informed about, and so that's kind of what we think that started all this drama, but
Mhm.
it's important to note now, again, I think, and I think Joel, you and I think we've talked about this before too, is that basically today AI is kind of an interesting parlor trick, quite frankly, at least regenerative AI is, and that's all it is, and it's all the garbage in, garbage out. We all can quote many times we got garbage by just asking it something that it just isn't capable of answering today. But if they have new technologies or new, like all of a sudden, I think one of the particular ones that was being talked about was the ability to solve math problems. And I know that sounds really superficial. Gee, a calculator does that, but it doesn't really. That isn't really what's going on here. This was actually much more than that, much more complicated ability to solve formulas and derive things. And if it makes these kinds of leaps, that means what it actually can do theoretically becomes much greater and yet exponentially so. So the point is, it's the path that it's leading you on, and how do you want to get there, and what kind of controls. And we've all talked about bumpers and guardrails on this thing, and so far I'm not seeing a whole lot of them, but
and they really haven't talked a lot about them either.
Well, I was going to say, I see some people saying they're going to do that, but it never seems to happen. And I think that's the concerns that we're here. And I think this is part of that conversation, that what happened with these guys is because some people felt they weren't, either being told, or that the bumpers weren't there, or whatever it might be. And those kind of philosophical disputes are going to drive where this industry goes. And either we're going to get Skynet or we're not, and that's
really
very
needs
scary.
to. And it really needs to. I mean, the AI right now is being seen as this big boogeyman that can take over the world and do things.
Well, how many movies have you seen? How many Terminator movies are there? I mean, and it's all
it can
AI.
be, and it can be, but right now it can't even figure out that a woman has only 2 boobs. Or that a person only has 2 legs and 2 hands.
It's so easy to trick. Really is.
Well, but that's also part of the danger too. So let's say it gets smarter in some ways, but there's something key that it doesn't know or isn't capable of getting to.
Right.
It could theoretically do something really tragic, because
depending on what it's in charge of and what it's connected to. Absolutely.
Look at what happens with and I'll use the word AI, but look what happens with the auto drive stuff. It misinterprets one little fact and boom, somebody's dead. Today. So the point is, now scale this up to something that's got much bigger scope. That potentially the potential is really is bad. So we're not there, and I agree. Right now, it's a nice parlor trick, but we need to make sure that we keep bringing this up. And as exhausted as we are for this story, and we all are exhausted listening to this story over and over, but we need to understand where this thing is going, because if we don't pay attention, who will? Right, everybody. Correct. I don't mean the 4 of us.
I think we're missing
everybody in general.
A good analogy is, we spend a lot of time in the world talking about weapons don't kill, the people with the weapons kill, and that's similar here. AI in itself it's totally different than the idiot holding AI and using it.
I agree.
True.
I agree.
Absolutely true.
It's very simple, and it's
but what happens? The difference here, though, is that the idiot holding it and using it basically sets it in a direction and lets it go. Right. And that's the scary part, because
that's the scary part. Nobody wants anybody to let it go
on you.
Yeah. We need to pay attention to what those people are saying and what those people are doing. And these people that we're talking about today are people that are very influential and very big in that business right now, even though today that business is
very small, very infantile, if you will. And I want to go ahead and make certain that everybody knows. I want to make certain that everybody knows who those people are and were.
Please.
All right. So the new board members, all right, will be former Salesforce co-CEO Brett Taylor. He's going to be the chairman of the board. All right. Former U.S. Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, and Quora CEO and existing board member Adam D'Angelo. All right. Gone in the board shakeup are Ilya, and I'm going to murder this last name, Sutskever, Helen Toner, and Tasha McCauley. All 3 of those people had voted to dismiss Altman as CEO, as did D'Angelo. So there's some balance there. He stayed, and there's some balance there to the board, which I think is important. All right. So you've got not everybody that voted against him, but at least one of those folks stayed. All right. So he's in as CEO just 5 days after OpenAI announced that he had been fired from the top role. All right. It was sudden and surprising, I think, to everyone. And again, as Chris had said, and we've been yakking about it, it all happened because Altman had not been consistently candid in his communications with the board. As a result, the board no longer has confidence in his ability to configure.
Or at least they didn't. I mean, well,
to
this new board might.
OpenAI, and that's what they had said, right? So anyway, long story short, this is something that I think we will need to check in on again, depending on how the news of this goes. I know that Microsoft wasn't. They were prepared not only to take him, but like I said, up to 70% of the company, and anybody that they had said that anybody from OpenAI that wanted to follow him over, they would have a spot for them. All right, they would use Ronco, make a space and make a space for them. So, what were you saying, Larry?
No, I just said that was a good statement or stance for them to make, because
but
they have the most to gain, I think, right now in this game of any.
They do, but you're right. You're right. They do. What's interesting though is you got to keep in mind they're in a mode right now where they've been actually letting people go.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're saying they're going to take all these people on, what would that have meant? What would that have looked like? You know, in Microsoft's bigger scheme. So there's some
shifting their interest a little bit.
Clearly, absolutely. What that meant would mean other people would be let go. I mean, I would suspect.
Right.
So it's important. You know, this has, again, what it's doing today doesn't seem like a lot, but what's coming could be, you know, very, very interesting, and we need to watch what these people are doing. You know, they've got the tools in their hands now, and we need to, you know, be aware how you're using it. How you're using it. What are you doing?
Very, very true. And I want to make certain that again, everybody knows that OpenAI had or has 778 employees, and over 500 of them released a particular statement in an open letter to the board of directors threatening to resign and join Altman and Brockman over at Microsoft if the two co-founders were not brought back. They would have folded. OpenAI would have folded. They wouldn't have been able to bring themselves back from that.
True.
So it was a make or break moment for OpenAI. You either listen to your employees who have complete and utter confidence in your former CEO and bring him back, or you're going to have to close your doors, because you won't be able to bring back all of that brain power and brain
That's
trust.
true. Something Chris Gavula said earlier sparks this next comment. I get calls literally weekly. You know, 2 or 3 people a week call me and say, "Hey," I mean, they know what I do here and whatever. They just want to know, what is this OpenAI stuff? What should I know? What should they don't know? And I think this is the majority of the users out there. Even the people who listen to this show probably have a good inkling of AI. There are so many millions of people who don't. They don't have a clue.
Yeah. For those that don't think, go think of the Marvel movies.
Stuff is what it can be.
Yeah, think of the Marvel movies though, and either Jarvis or Friday from the Iron Man suit.
Yeah, and if you think Facebook effed up the elections in the past, just wait till OpenAI gets a hold of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just that too. Like here, you want to see how much of a buzzword it is. Just type in AI into your app store.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
goes
nuts.
crazy.
It does. You're gonna get programs that you never thought were out there.
And there's a lot of scammers too, because they'll like, okay, $5.99 a week, and you can generate as many images as you want. And it's like, do you really have to pay that? You know, that's the thing. You know, if I were to pay anyone right now, I would do the ChatGPT subscription there, and then learn how to embrace it on your own. Yeah, but that's just me. And it's not that type of thing is not ready for
Oh, it's not ready for prime time yet, but
prime time
No,
yet.
I mean,
So
I do have an
it's
account
good
at
to learn.
OpenAI, but I mean,
Yeah.
most of us
I have the
do.
free account currently,
Yeah.
but but
Yeah.
it's like, it's not capable of what some people really think it is yet. I mean, it just isn't.
But
right.
but the thing that's important is when it is, it's going to come quickly
Right.
when it
Right.
comes. And that's the thing.
And that's the scary thing about AI is that it when it happens, and it will, it's going to happen quickly. It's so quickly that you're not going to be able to blink. You're going to get like, oh, there was a threat on Tuesday, and now Tuesday evening it's evolved to the point where it's completely out of control and you're screwed. So anyway,
Yeah.
I want to go ahead and
So speaking of
stop with
quickly,
the panicking and the worry. While somewhat legitimate, I want to go ahead and move us on. One of the biggest things that I like about Mac OS, all right, in general, is and some iOS devices like your iPad, your iPhone, is that it can automatically back itself up. And one of the things that I've learned over the years, especially with my Mac, is that having Time Machine automatically go through my Mac and back up not only my data to an extent, but to my apps and my configuration, et cetera, so that if worse comes to worse and I feel as though my Mac has twisted side, something isn't quite right, it's not working the way that I want, I can go ahead and blow the device and with a Time Machine backup, bring it back. All right. So in general, this is a wonderful thing to have. All right. One of the things though that you need to realize though with Time Machine is the more space that you have, the more backups that your machine has, the better off, the more options that you have. All right. Because it will go ahead it'll go ahead and take a small snapshot of changes once every hour. All right. It'll go through and take a partial or a full backup once every 24 hours. It'll go ahead and take a bigger backup once every week, a bigger backup once every month, et cetera, and then leave you with all of those data points on your drive. And you can go back and see individual changes to files if need be. All right. One of the biggest problems that I've had is that my Time Machine drive or drives, depending on how you want to picture this, fill up quickly with all of this activity. And adding space to your backup array can be either a simple thing or it can be a complicated thing, depending on how you want to approach it. With Time Machine, it's really, really very, very easy. And I've got a nice little how-to on the site on how to go ahead and pull together a drive for Time Machine or to add a drive to your array. And that's either transferring from a smaller drive to a bigger drive, or just, you know what? Don't worry about transferring to a smaller drive. Just add two, because the more space you have, the better off you're going to be. Now, Time Machine's supposed to go back and when the disk fills up, it'll go back and make adjustments to the space, get rid of the older backups that it quote unquote
it does
no
a
longer
great
needs.
job of that, by the way.
It does a very good job of that. But it will go automatically call those backups that it doesn't need and consolidate some of that data into larger backups or more full and complete backups, and then reclaim all that space and give it to either the partial drive that you've given it or to the full drive. All right. And that's something that I think, if you aren't backing up your Mac, if you aren't backing up your Windows machine, you need to figure out how to do that. So I've got, for Macs specifically, I've got a how-to article on the site that goes through with a line and a shot and a line and a shot and a line and a shot to give you an idea of a step-by-step approach on how to add, on how to set up Time Machine and how to go ahead and add extra space to it should you get another drive that you'd like to add to the array. So,
quick interjection there,
please.
Chris, is, and I've looked at that article. That is really some good advice for folks. We all get, I don't know, it's not complacent. It's just that if you're a Mac user, you've known about Time Machine since time. You've always known it was there, but did you use it, or do you use it? Most of us, I back it up, blah, blah, blah. But until you really need Time Machine, you'll never know just how much it can save your butt, because it has me on numerous occasions. I would never be without Time Machine backup, ever. If I'm just truthful, never. You should do it.
Yeah, I know. I agree. If you, like I said, if you aren't, this is the no-brainer of the week kind of thing, right? This is if you aren't backing up your machine, even if you've got iCloud Drive backing up all of your data, all right, it's not going to back up your applications. It's not going to back up all of the special little tweaks that you've made to your machine, all of the application configurations, all of the folders that you got on your desktop,
your preference files, all that stuff.
Right. Exactly. That this is the one thing that I want to make certain that everybody knows. Backing up your machine, good. Keeping you from having your hair on fire because you accidentally deleted something, or something got screwed up when you installed an application that you said you wanted to look at, but you probably knew in the back of your mind it really wasn't a great idea, et cetera, et cetera. All right. There you go. Now you've got a way to get yourself back to where you were. All right. Time Machine can take you all the way through that and put you back just to 10 minutes before you did the stupid thing, or you can blow the whole device and put it all back fresh. All right. Just like it came out of the box, but with all of your stuff very quickly and easily. And there's a great way to add more space to the drive array or group of drives. All right. So it's on the site. I want to direct everybody to it. Was published on the 21st of November. So if for whatever reason it's not showing on the homepage, you can look for it. All right. How to transfer Time Machine backups or add extra drives to Time Machine. If you aren't doing it, do it now. So there you go. That's going to do it for our Apple segment this week. Like I said, we've got some really good, really holiday oriented stuff near the end of the show that I want to make certain that we have time to. So I want to move us to our mobile Linux segment. And Larry, you had some really, really great articles this week that hit the site. The first one is installing Chrome and Safari PWAs. What's a PWA, Larry?
Well, first of all, it's a progressive web app. But that said, Progressive has really left the moniker. They're all known as web apps anymore. Only us old timers still add the P in there and call them up. But basically, they hit the scene back in 2015. Most people think they're older than they are. The very first progressive web app was designed by a Google engineer named Alex Russell in 2015. Back then, when they were a big deal, they really were. I was not a fan, as were most people back then who were true geeks. We just didn't. No, I'm not taking a web thing, putting it on my computer. No way. They were rough back then. They were slow back then. And they were not at all, representative of genuine operating system applications. But that said, fast forward to today, over 20 times more people use web apps today than just 5 years ago, let alone 2015. So while still not maybe for everyone, I'm going to venture a guess that most folks who poo-poo the web app, it's just a natural holdover from a previous bad experience. They looked at them 4, 5, 6 years ago, didn't like them. But I tell you what, if you, I don't know, they've become such an integral part of my digital experience, and they're lifesavers if you work in a cross-platform world. There's so many things, especially Google. Google does a lot of great stuff, I think. They have a lot of solutions that are web-based only. You can't put the calendar on and you can't put Keep on your desktop. They're web solutions. But when you put both of those or any one of their other similar type solutions onto a Mac, especially, they are beautiful. I mean, the ones they're doing today, the ones that Apple just released recently with the newest version of Safari, they're awesome. I mean, I have about 15 or 16 available installed. They take up no space. They use no processing time. They are no more they're no more resource intensive than a web page. That's all they are.
So I would say, and broadly though, I would say that, one of the things that's changed is that we're much more mobile centric than we used to be. And what's happened with that is there's a lot of things that are apps on mobile that really aren't much more than shells for web data.
That's
and
true.
I think that sense. So I think the lines between what is an app or what's a program, we used to call them, of course, versus what is a web page or just a presented web page, all those lines have blurred quite a bit. And this is just, to me, another place on the spectrum of all that now.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, because it was actually Tim Cook who started making these things popular, even though they were in vogue a little bit. When they created, think back to when they created the iPhone, some of the things were actually web apps. Back then, they just weren't called web apps. So, I mean, you got to give Apple credit.
This was Steve Jobs' vision.
Yeah, it sort of
for the
is.
iPhone, for the iPhone.
When you use, I mean, I'm a big fan, even though I'm a Mac head, I am a huge fan of Google Calendar, because that thing gets it right. It really does. And now that they've integrated, just again recently, they've integrated Google Tasks as part of Google Calendar. And I got to tell you, it is, for me, I'm in heaven. I mean, I'm a GTD guy. I love the getting things done philosophy. And these two simple applications together are awesome, and they're free.
And speaking of that, I finally got it, and I really like it.
Isn't it nice?
With the task list. Yeah.
I don't know.
I use the task list. I use it quite a bit, mostly for my two things are for medication reminders.
Right. You start out like that though, Joe, but eventually you might even, I don't know, it's become, I do everything in my day-to-day life, everything in business, everything with Google Tasks. And if you trust it, it'll be true to you. It really is good. But I think more importantly, if you're a Safari loyalist or even a Chrome enthusiast, I probably use more Chrome on a Mac than I do Safari. I've moved a little bit more there, only because of what I do in Chrome and that Google. That's all. But installing an app on on Mac OS, it's just, we have the best of both worlds, because we have both Safari, and it looks just as good there as it does in Chrome. They're perfect in either browser.
I mean, I will say I'm not a big fan of a lot of the Google apps. You know that. I'm just not.
Okay.
But having said that, I will say that on my Android devices, I want to be able to run Apple TV, which doesn't exist unless you're on Android TV.
True.
It doesn't exist on the Android devices. So I use basically a saved web app to basically launch me into it as if it was just any other app. So it's got some limitations compared to the actual app version of those things, but on the whole, it's a good compromise, as you said, Larry. When you have, especially when you're trying to deal with cross-platform stuff, so it does help with a lot of that. So
I find I have to go find. I've moved also to Google Keep because it's very simple and it works for me. And Notes is good. I mean, OneNote is good, but for me, it's too much. I don't need everything OneNote gives me. I want text. I want to keep it. That's it. So it works for me. And I'm able to use that now on every mobile app I have or operating system I have. I have it on my Mac, I have it on Windows. It's just
sure.
ubiquitous. And I think ubiquitous is where we're all headed. If an app isn't ubiquitous, it's not going to succeed. I don't think.
No, I totally agree. I totally,
the
agree.
easy way to try it, kids, is if you have a special thing that any web app at all, anything you do with online with a browser, if you want to make that a web app, you can do it in Chrome or Safari on a Mac.
Or Microsoft Edge, by the way, guys. You can do it with that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
And on Linux too.
And on Linux too.
Yep. No, Linux,
absolutely. These
just...
these are real. If you do a lot of work, either in something, again, we're going to use the example of either Google Apps, or if there's something specific. I know that I created a couple of web apps for when the site runs on WordPress. So I've got a web app for the admin dashboard for the site, and then I've got.
I actually use a
Zencastr.
WordPress web app, Chris. I don't even use the browser.
Right. So then that's what I'm doing on all of my computers is I'm using a web app for that, and it's very easy to set up. And I agree with your conclusions in the article. Both are very, very good. In terms of which browser you choose to use, whether it's Chrome or Safari or Edge or even Firefox.
Right.
All right. But there are a couple of advantages depending on what you're doing and what kind of an app you want to quote unquote create. Chrome does offer a couple of advantages over Safari, and there are some things that I'm certain that Safari does better than Chrome. Depending on what you're doing.
Point. If you're at all absent-minded or forgetful, one of the big reasons a web app is better. I mean, it's no different than a web page, really. But I tend to forget. I'll close my browser. I'll go, oh crap, I was working in there, and don't do that.
Yep.
That's one of the. I'm just kind of. I forget.
And you're right. It is a web page essentially. It's a formatted web page, is really what they are. But you're right.
A pretty one.
But it's right that you can double click on it and relaunch it without having to think it all through. And a lot of times, if you're using a web app and you use regular credentials to get in, you can actually save your credentials as part of that of that process. That's probably for me the biggest thing.
Well,
because I double click that thing or just click that thing on my Mac dock and it opens right up to where I need it to be.
But also, Chris, if you're to what you said, if you're working on an app and doing something, you're right in the middle of adding an event to your calendar. You accidentally close the web app, you open it back up, it's still right where you left it. A browser page isn't. That's the difference.
That's true.
Yeah, there's a few differences, but it's become much more functional than they were. They were not functional all those years ago.
They're becoming a little bit more involved.
They're still a little bit performance laggy compared to a proper app because the execution isn't local. Right. So it's still happening. You still have to wait for everything to happen. But guys, it's a lot cleaner than it used to be. It's really, very, very functional, especially when you don't have what you want otherwise. When there is no real app, this is a great thing, too. I
agree.
Well, it's like I was going to say on the Google ones, if you just open a new tab, depending on what your default setup for the new tab, and you hit there's that. Right next to your account icon, there is
the 3 dots,
like 9 dots.
Yeah, the waffle icon.
Oh, the waffle,
the waffle icon, whatever you call it. Yes, but you can open up. Basically, there's all the web apps that Google has.
They make it a little easier there than in Safari, and I kind of go into that. If you want to go to the website,
correct.
A little article. It's got all the steps in there how to do that. And
the process. It doesn't help you with the process. It just helps you with their particular apps.
Well, the other thing that's nice about it, you lose that crap at the top of your browser. All that junk up there.
I know that I tend to use Edge for it, and Edge, it just, gee, I'm on a page I like, right click and says save as app, doom, you're done. It's so simple. True. It's so easy, so easy.
Edge makes it easy to create an app. Google, there's a
Not that
couple of
they-
steps. Safari makes it easy to create an app. There's a lot that's there that is
Yeah. They all have
they're-
pluses and minuses, but they're all
They do.
worth looking into, guys. They really are.
Absolutely.
It's just
And
great we have choices today.
We do.
We
10
do.
years ago.
We do. And that's one of the things. But speaking of safety online.
Were we? Were we speaking of safety online?
Yes.
I
One of the
sense a
things.
theme here. We're talking about backups, and now we're talking about saving your cross-platform stuff by using web apps. Now we're going to talk about more safety. So
More
there we
safety,
go.
yes. And here's the thing that I think everybody needs to know. There are a lot of folks out there that are not nice people. All right. The world is a big place. There's, approximately 6 to 9 billion of us all over the world. And some people are nicer than others. All
Very
right.
true.
Some people, generally speaking, now are nicer than others. Some people are just, out for themselves and will screw over anybody they can to make certain that they get what they need, and they don't care what happens to you.
And
Which is
they
one of the
do a
reasons
very
why,
good job of this too.
yeah, this is one of the reasons why folks get their identities stolen, why hacking is such a problem, and et cetera, et cetera. But Larry, you've come up with a little bit of a guide to help people stay safe online.
I did, and there was a reason for this. I used to think, hey, we're all geeks, and you think of yourself, you kind of always include yourself in a group of people that are like you, like the four of us.
Sure.
We're all geeks. We've worked in this industry
Right.
forever, and we all say, nah, never happened to me. No. That's fine. But what about the people it does happen to? They
Right.
don't get the
Sure.
benefit of our
Right.
years of experience and being able
Right.
to avoid these pitfalls. So I recently, what made me realize this and spun me up a little bit to write that article, I spoke with a pretty large organization here who had asked me to talk about how to stay safe online. So while I was standing up there answering all this group's questions, and God knows they had a bunch,
Yeah.
I thought maybe it'd be a good idea just to share my thoughts with our website at iTechGear.org. You can read the full article up there, the links in our show notes, but it begs a question just a little bit in tonight's show. I don't care how much of an online seasoned veteran we are.
Mhm.
Staying safe online is becoming difficult. It really is, because the bad actors are devising all these new ways to skirt the safeguards that are built into our computers, and they know that you have an account at XYZ Bank. They know you have a Microsoft 365 subscription. They may not know how to get in either one of those, but they're going to play to your senses when they send that email that says, "Hey, Chris, about your Microsoft 365 subscription, we noticed a little problem there. Click here, we'll fix it." Well, you just click there, and
the scary thing, Larry, is those things are getting better and better looking, and it's
they
harder.
are.
It's harder and harder to tell if they're real or not. And so I think your tips are very, very helpful things, quite honestly, because I'm constantly telling my family and friends, "Oh yeah, I'm seeing more of these today, so don't do this," or I'm seeing more of those kinds of hits. Don't do that. And I get hits all the time.
Oh, we all do.
Numerous times a week. And I go, "Is that real?" I mean, I got to the point where it used to be, "Oh, that's crap, delete it.
We
It's
could
junk.
tell
Gee,
it.
it's not."
Right,
And now
right.
it's gotten to the point where I go, "Well, is it? It doesn't look like it, but maybe." And so, the guidelines of things like never click, just go to the website of whatever it is directly. Don't ever click on the links. Just, call
And
them, do whatever you can do otherwise. Get there another way.
Right. Think about what you're looking at in that email, that phishing email. 5 years ago, they were doing this as well, but they were so bad at it. They would have a UPS email that have a blue truck. At least now they're using a brown truck.
And always, I mean, that's really good points there. Always, too, I think one thing I would add to that is always remember, like, for example, you should know what email you used for signing up for your Amazon account.
Absolutely.
So if you have a spam come in from on one of your other accounts saying, "Hey, click this for your Amazon," no, that should be a huge red flag. And I would also say that these things here would also apply if you are an Android user or soon to be an iPhone user who's sideloading apps.
Right.
Only sideload apps from places you trust.
And if you think this is not, boys and girls, a big industry, let me tell you a true fact. In 2022, the online fraud industry was over 22 billion with a B dollars.
This is what I'm saying. You know,
$22 billion in
people
2022.
have
And most of this was individuals.
$22 billion.
This was individual stuff, not the big.
There's lots of keys and flags that you can try to follow as best you can. But again, I say if there's a sense of urgency, something's probably wrong with the email. If there's if you have any doubt, even if you don't have any doubts, just to protect yourself, again, take a different path to get to whatever it is you need to get to. Don't use the links in the emails. Don't, there's lots of these kind of rules. Yeah, because you don't know. You just don't know. And all it takes is, text messages, links. Those are the worst these days. You don't even have to have a link sometimes. Just coming in. So be careful.
We have a lot of seasoned veterans that listen to us too. And if you have some additional tips
absolutely,
just go look at the article, throw your tips up in the comment section so other people can read them.
And guys, it's all important. It's really, really important, especially that we bring this up now, because the rate of these things, especially during the holiday season, goes way up because people are distracted. They're not paying attention. And so, the odds of something going wrong are higher. So please, 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 be
keep
paranoid.
Yourself safe.
I'm telling you, be paranoid.
Safe.
It's okay.
One last thing that I would say, and I left that large group with this thought when I talked to him. If there's anything you take away from what you've heard, I hope you'll see a little visual sign in your mind's eye when you read those emails. It says, should I really do this? And if you'll just ask yourself that 2 times before you click a link, you won't click it. That's simple.
Right. I want to go over the 6 things that you mentioned though, on how to,
the article.
On how to spot fake emails and websites. All right. If something that says, if you get something that tells you that you have to take urgent action right now or the world is going to end,
right?
Don't do it. Let the world end, according to that email. All right. Leave it alone. Don't do it. If it's too good to be true, there is no prince in Nigeria who's going to leave you $1 gazillion. Bill Gates is not going to give you money. All right. You didn't just win the lottery. Your email was not picked anywhere. All right. If you didn't enter the contest, it's a fake.
and you don't need that job in shipping and receiving or whatever they keep coming up with.
You don't need to be the distribution agent. No.
Yeah.
All right. If it's too good to be true, it is.
And your bank's not gonna ask for your credit card number.
No.
Nope.
They already have it.
Never.
Yeah.
Never.
Nope.
Emails that you are unfamiliar with an unfamiliar greeting or salutation. Anything that says greetings of the day, it's a fake. It's a fake. All right. Period. It's a fake. Don't. All right. If there are gimpy attachments, if there's a zip file, an exe, an SCR, which is a screensaver, or a PDF, all right, that's attached, unless you know where that PDF has been, don't open the attachment. Don't open the zip file. Don't touch the exe, it's especially the screensaver, the SCR.
.scrs are tough. They're bad. They really are.
All right. It will look like it's absolutely nothing, but the rootkit and the permission elevations will take place and you're going to be screwed. And if you've done any banking and there are any or you've bought anything that consider those credit cards gone and stolen, consider your banking accounts compromised, etc. Don't open the attachment, period. All right. This is a big one. This next one is a big one. emails with spelling and or grammar mistakes.
But you're seeing less of that. That's what's scary.
They're getting better.
They're getting better. But look, you don't gloss through. If you think that the email may be legitimate, read through it. Read through it all. If they're missing a plural, if they've got a wrong
look especially at the names. Instead of
Yes.
like Microsoft.com, it might say Microsoft.co or something
right.
different. Look for
Right.
look for those kinds of names. Names
Right.
especially are where you want to watch it.
In American English, a company is an individual. It is a singular thing. In most other English speaking or international English, it's a plural. All right. So Microsoft in the United States, Microsoft has done the following things. In international English, Microsoft have done the following things. Nobody that you know of is going to speak international English. They're not going to have. They're going to has. All right. So look for these things. Read.
Well, and the other
critical.
thing along that very same line, on your phone, Brenda and I were in a Mexican restaurant. Oh, it's been about 6-8 months ago. I got a phone call. I look at the call, see the caller ID, and it's AppleCare, spelled correctly, but the C is lowercase. Okay. And then when I pick up, I said hello, and it says, "Hi, Mr. Larry. Your Apple ID have a problem."
Right. People calling here would never use your first name.
Goodbye.
Yes. All I've got to say is, look, most carriers, and this is a great thing to add to this list. Most cell carriers have caller ID now built in. All right. If something comes across without a number or is blocked or is a number that you personally do not have already in your contact list, you may have a couple, 300 or so in your contact list. If it's not coming up as a recognized name that you know,
leave it alone.
Do not answer it. If they want you, they will leave email. They will leave voicemail.
If it's a spam thing, they're not legally allowed to, so they won't.
Right.
And it makes it very interesting. I've actually told my family the same thing. I said, never be offended if I don't answer a call. If I don't know the number, I'm not answering it, period.
Right. Leave me voicemail. I will
leave
call
me
you
voicemail.
back.
If it's important, you're going to leave me voicemail.
Right. If you really, really want me, you'll leave a voicemail, have me call you back and tell me why.
Boys and girls, we're harping on this because it's real stuff. I mean,
it's happened to all of us in some way or other.
Every week of the world, I deal with this at least 1 to 3 times. Somebody has lost a bunch of money in a scam. I just deal with it every week. It's real.
I will tell you,
very difficult.
The one thing, my aunt, God rest her soul, before she passed away, I believe it was in late 2018 or early 2019. She called me and she was so proud of herself. Something popped up on her computer and they said to call Microsoft right away, and she did. And they came in and cleaned up her machine, and she did all of this on her own. She was able to handle it and tackle it, et cetera, all by herself. I said, "Did you give them a credit card number?" She says, "Yes." They had me install a program, and oh my God. She said, "What?" I went, "Oh my God. You need to call the bank. All right. Call the credit card issuer, call that bank and look for the charges. What did they charge you?" "Well, they charged me $700. I said, "That's it. You just got scammed. Go call the bank, have them cancel the charges, let them know what happened, and have them, issue you a different card."
Yeah.
All right. You just got ripped off.
Well, and I gotta say broadly, we as Larry kind of said earlier, even those of us who kind of watch for this stuff on our own stuff, because we still get, sometimes we get scammed. I mean,
they look so good these days.
Because they look so good. So
Absolutely.
please, just because you think I'm telling you right now, you don't always know.
You don't know. I've been doing this for 30 years. I am certified in a couple of different online security certifications, and I got taken.
I don't. It's easy.
It was a test email from the company that I was working for. All right, but it was that good. I mean, I read through this. everything. And I clicked the links and they said, well, congratulations. You just bought yourself more training in cybersecurity or you're fired. So here you go. Thank you very little. Thank you very little. And the last thing that I want to go ahead and mention on this list before we move on to the next thing here, any email that you get that requests any kind of personal health information or PHI, or personally identifying information or PII, or any kind of password or any kind of account information.
Let your common sense kick in. That's all.
Don't pass on anything, especially based on a link in an email. Don't.
Let me add one more thought though. For those folks listening whose companies might offer security training, and mine, I have to go through 3, 4, 5 of these a year.
Yep.
And they're all repetitive.
Yep.
Please don't blow them off and don't ignore what they're telling you, because as crazy
legitimate
as it sounds and as annoying as it is to go over it and over and over it, you'd be amazed how it's the simple things that'll trip you up. Please pay attention.
They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. And go through it, even if it's presented in a cheesy way. Just go through it. It really, there really are valid things in there.
Right. It will help you save your own bacon. All right. It will help you save your own bacon. You're not going to regret it. So this particular article is called Staying Safe Online. It is by Larry McJunkin. It is available on the site as of the 22nd. So please go and check it out. A direct link to the article will be in the show notes. So do yourself a favor, especially during the holiday buying season. Especially during the holiday buying season. Stay safe online. All right. So, and speaking of the holiday buying season, Chris, you recently got yourself a brand new foldable, the OnePlus Open, and you've got this thing and you've submitted an article for the site that's going to publish Tuesday. Give us a preview of the coming attractions.
Well, okay. Well, so this is pretty much an initial impressions kind of conversation. I didn't focus on specifications. I didn't focus on, detailed performance kind of things. I just kind of, I've had a number of foldables now over the last couple of years here. Foldables are becoming a big thing. I don't mean in terms of big part of the market. They're still a small part of the market, but
they are.
They're a part of the market that's growing by leaps and bounds. So it's kind of interesting.
It is.
And the choices that we've had here in North America are a little bit more limited. So, having said that, I'm always fascinated because everybody seems to come to the table with a different kind of spin on how this ought to work or how this ought to look, and they have pros and cons with it. So so this is the OnePlus Open. It's Cognet is actually the Oppo N3. Is the same. It's the same device. Basically, they're all under the parent company of Oppo. They are Chinese devices, so take everything with a grain of salt. You need to, watch and make sure that there's no goofware that you don't want on these devices, of course. But having said that, they've done a pretty nice job with this device. From a hardware perspective, it really is well done. It's basically, for those who are familiar, maybe mostly with the Samsung Z series, the Z Fold series, and the Z Flip series, it's similar in height to the Samsung Z Fold, but wider, but a little bit wider. And it's taller than the Google Pixel Fold, but not quite as wide as the Google Pixel Fold. So it's something kind of in between the two sizes. The big thing here with this, from a hardware perspective, I will tell you, is that when you open it up, it actually kind of snaps into its fold open position, and you really almost can't tell that there's a crease, which is really a big deal right now. We've talked about this before. The crease is a huge deal for all of us, but I've always said you kind of get used to it being there. You feel a lump, you see the thing a little bit. When it's lit, you don't really notice it as much. But in this case, it's virtually almost gone. You really don't really notice it's there at all. And I really mean that when I say that. It's really it's fascinating how well they've done a job of kind of hiding that crease and getting rid of that crease. It's also about the same weight as an Apple iPhone 14 Pro Max. It's almost the same weight. So for a foldable phone, that's a big deal. I mean, that's, light in the foldable phone kind of market. The Samsung Z feels like a brick by comparison. It really does. And so does the Pixel Fold. For as small as the Pixel Fold is, it's actually pretty heavy. So it's amazing to see where they're going with it. The OS needs a little bit. It's pretty good, but they use a thing they call it Oxygen OS, which is pretty much almost the same as Oppo's Color OS. Again, unless you're in the Asian markets, you're probably not as familiar with those. So you might be here in the US if you have another OnePlus Open device. But this Oxygen OS is more like the Color OS in the Asian markets. And it works fine. To me, Google has a little more polish. Samsung has a little more polish. I think it'll come along if they've updated. They've got, I think 4 years of updates on this thing. So theoretically, it's got a little place to go, but I'm not seeing a lot of hiccups or burps or anything like that. Just these small little things that you expect out of a new device. But overall, very, very fast. It's a Snapdragon based phone, just like the Samsung. So it's very, very fast. It actually beats Samsung in a lot of benchmarks, strangely enough. And it's very bright at its peak brightness of 2,800 nits, guys. 2,800.
Wow.
That's its peak. That's its peak. So yeah, you take it out in the sun and you can actually still read it. That's a big deal.
It is.
So
it is.
There's
it's very easy to go outside and just have the sunlight, the direct sunlight, just swallow up your screen.
It really is, and gosh, it happens on all my devices, right? I mean,
yeah,
and even happens on like our car dashboards these days since they're all digital, So yeah, it's nice to see something that can actually work pretty well in the brightness. On the downsides, for those of you like wireless charging, and by the way, there's no such thing as wireless charging; it's conductive charging. It's not really wireless. But for those of you who like that, it does not have that. Doesn't offer it. Can't put it on a charging plate. But
cable only.
It's cable only, but it's very, very, very fast. 67 watts. Okay. So when I say that, it's like, oh, okay. So what? We've got things that go higher than that. Well, I got news for you. This thing almost goes from empty to full in like a half hour.
Wow.
I mean, it's in that range. It's so fast. You can actually see the numbers ticking up as it's charging, when you're plugging in. It's amazing to watch.
Wow.
But you have to use their brick. By the way, it includes the brick and the cable when you buy it.
Shut the front door.
I know. How often do you see that anymore, right?
Yeah.
Did you hear that, Timmy Cook?
Yeah, it actually includes the charger. But if you don't use their charger, you don't get as fast at charging. Even when you're using a high wattage charger, you really need to use their charger to get the fastest charging. And that's fine. So that's probably one of the downsides of the device. Again, it's a lot of it's going to be about preference and form factor. What sizes do you like? Do you not like? I like it because I didn't like the narrow screen on the Samsung. I like the Samsung for a lot of reasons, but the narrow screen was just too. I couldn't type on it, so I had to open it up every time I want to use it.
Sure. Does it come with a pen?
No, but that's an actually interesting thing because some of the early reviews that I saw made a comment that, gee, this doesn't support a pen. And actually, when they initially contacted OnePlus support, they said, no, we don't do a pen. In fact, they do. The pen that you can use is the pen that comes with the Oppo Find N2 or N3. That pen works with the OnePlus Open. Okay. But it's not really available on the OnePlus site. It's not available easily. You can there are websites you can go to out there that actually have to order it. You actually have to order it from overseas to get it.
AliExpress might be a good spot for that.
Distop is one.
Okay.
There are others out there. You might be able to find it on eBay, but again, don't get overtaken in price on it. Generally what I've seen is it's around $100, $125 in that ballpark, which is similar to other, pens from Microsoft and the Surface pens and things like that, and their pricing. But having said that, so yeah, it has pen support. It does actually, there are actually menu things for it, even if you don't have the pen, and that's what got people suspicious. So yeah, it will work with a pen, only with those pens. Don't get mixed up and buy like the Oppo Pencil that works with their tablet, or I'm sorry, the OnePlus tablet. It doesn't work with that stylus. I don't know why they have such confusion and didn't do consistency in all their styli, as it were, but they
probably
didn't.
for the same reason that Samsung did that, but
possibly, yeah. So it works on this, but it doesn't work on that kind of story. So make sure you use the one that works. That you look for one that's compatible with the Oppo Find N2 or Find N3. That's the pen that works with it. And so there is no OnePlus branded pen at this point that works with it. But on the whole, it's an interesting device. I'm looking forward to spending a lot more time with it. It's got some really, really good things. Like I said, not as polished as the Google product or the Samsung product, and in terms of the OS interface, but its multitasking is really, really good. Its multitasking is better than either of those other two. The way it does multitasking is very good.
Okay, so the last question that I have for you, have you had a chance to play with the camera at all? Because it looks like it's got a really nice array on the back.
Yeah, so I would say this, and again, I'm also referring to other reviews that folks have made. There's a lot of reviews on the internet right now, on YouTube and whatnot, but and my own experience. So I'm sort of combining these two a little bit. The camera is huge. For those the bump is huge. It's almost laughable. It's so large. And it's a camera system that was developed with in conjunction with Hasselblad. So it has some in the old days, you remember Nokia always had Zeiss lenses, and that was a big deal for them. Well, this is kind of similar for them. Hasselblad did I think they did some of the color processing or something like that. So the camera, from a hardware perspective only, this is some of the best cameras you're going to get on a foldable. They just, it's really right up there with the Samsung S23 Ultra in terms of its camera qualities. However, the only downside is I would argue that the software isn't on level with what Pixel's doing, with the Pixel software. The Pixel camera software is better. I'm going to use the word AI. Let's all cringe. But the logic that's in those cameras is a little bit more clever. But having said that, if you use the camera, you'll have to spend some time with the camera app. And I haven't spent as much time with the camera app as I would like yet. You can go into their pro modes and you can tweak things and adjust things and leverage that hardware. So if you learn a couple techniques, you can get amazing pictures. Apparently it has one of the best portrait modes of any camera anywhere, period. And I have to admit, the portrait mode is gorgeous. So they have a number of other modes that you kind of want to explore. I would say, Apple still probably is the king of the video, the 4K video. They still are. But there are things you can do to make this work. Some of these other devices are a little better in low light, but that's only because we don't know. We have to learn the settings to use for low light. It does have one of the slowest low light. In other words, when you take a picture in low light, you have to hold the camera still much longer than you do with some of these other ones. And maybe that'll improve over time. Maybe we can use different modes to get there. I don't know yet. I'm still working my way through it. But on the whole, yeah, the hardware is there. The potential is there. And some of the basic pictures in regular daylight are just stunning. They really are good. So as far as foldables go, again, there's some candy bar phones that have better cameras still, I would say. Not necessarily better hardware, but better software solutions. But the hardware, man, it's going to be hard to beat the hardware here. The hardware here is really the star of the show with this device all the way around. So
I am excited to see this article hit the site. It actually does hit the site on Tuesday, the 28th, probably at around 6 a.m. Central. So we will see it and look for it there and then. And hopefully there will be more on the OnePlus Open on the site in the near future. You never know.
You never know.
You never know. So hint. Anyway,
I have no idea what you mean.
Oh, thank you.
Right.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and move us to our Windows
All righty.
segment, but before we get there, we have a brief message. So be right back. Hi, this is Christopher Spera with iTechGear.org, and I'm here to tell you that iTechGear.org and the iTechGear Weekly are on Patreon. Patreon is a platform for creators, allowing them to express their creative side in an organized, marketable fashion and earn a living or create a really cool kind of side hustle. You can create a community around your hobby of choice. You can gain followers. You can get members and supporters all along the way. You can create subscription products that, for a pledged amount every month, you'll provide to your members and followers. Setup is easy, prices are reasonable, and you can have your pledges auto deposited into an account of your choice every month. With iTechGear.org, our initial offering is a monthly newsletter for just $3 a month. This is our initial offering, and we'll have other tiers and other products and other offers up in the coming months. Become a patron of our site. Grow with us, and we'll provide you with the tech understanding that you're missing right now. Join us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/iTechGear. That's www.patreon.com/iTechGear. And welcome back in the start of our Windows segment. You know, one of the things that I like, I've recently had a couple of upgrade experiences with computers from Windows 10 to Windows 11. And while Windows 10 is a very capable operating system, Windows 11 is a lot nicer to look at. And to be very, very honest, the UI is a little bit more organized, I think.
I agree.
All right. It's a little bit better organized than Windows 10. I think it is a better representation of what Microsoft was wanting to do with Windows 10 when it was first released. But one of the biggest problems that I have with Windows 11 is the release monikers or the release names. Can we please just call it Windows 11.1 already?
Let
Can we
me add
You
a
should
layer.
have done that with
Yeah,
10.
I agree, but let me add a layer to that because I agree. The labeling is terrible. I mean,
22 H2, 23 H2.
and it's not just that. It's update 1. It's this. It's all these labels that don't mean anything.
All the moments.
Right? They don't mean anything to us, as average users, so to speak. Right? But what I have a bigger problem with is, and I don't mind when they do this in like their different channels. If you're in the Canary channel or the Dev channel, I get you're trying things, you're baiting things out. I get all that. But even in the main channels, they still seem to do some A/B stuff, and releases are very inconsistent. So we say, oh, you'll see a public release saying, hey, it's released. You got released today, and only 10% of the people get it, and it's staggered over such a long window. And it's like, come on, I realize we do that on mobile devices too, and I don't like it on mobile devices either. If you're going to release it, you're done.
Oh, and let everybody get it, please. Release the house.
This lack of consistency drives me completely bananas. So the lack of consistency in naming, the lack of consistency in release schedules, it's nuts. I'd rather go back to the way we used to do it. Okay, there was a big announcement, boom, such and so came out, and all of a sudden the discs were available in the stores. The downloads were available, boom, and we bought it or upgraded it or whatever we did, and we just moved on to the next version and dealt with the bugs as they came out. And I realize that has its own challenges. I don't want to minimize those, but man, as a consumer, I have no idea what version I'm looking at anymore. Somebody says, well, what version of Windows are you running? I don't know. How do I find that again?
Not
it's
only
crazy.
not only that, nobody understand. I mean, everybody understands that when you go from Windows 10 to Windows 11, there's obviously improvements. All right, in the newer version as opposed to the older version. All right. And that there are features that you're going to get in the newer version versus the older version. Same thing with like a Windows 11 22H2 or 23H2. You understand that the operating system has been updated, and there's probably a number of different things that A, you're going to want, and B, you're going to need in terms of security fixes, etc.
That raises an interesting question, Chris. So one of the things that happened, especially in this last set of cycles with 22H2 and 23H2 coming out, is that people would receive some of the apps and what we used to call just accessories, but they wouldn't receive other ones until later.
Right.
But they would still be under the same build number. And that was confusing. So you didn't really know. So even if you said, oh, I have 22H2, you didn't have 22H2. You had 22H2s and some sub build number.
Right.
And unless you knew that, you didn't really know what you had. So you and I might have I have 22H2. Why don't I have that? Oh, because you don't have build. It was crazy. It's still crazy. And I think it's got to stop. It's driving everybody nuts.
Well, it's impossible to know where you are or where you need to get.
Or what's coming. You don't know what you're looking at. You can't plan because you don't know what you're looking at.
I totally agree. The Verge is a good article, and we're using that as a source for this particular conversation in the show notes for everyone. You guys need to go and take a look at that doggone thing, because I'm telling you right now, it's a pain in the butt. Microsoft, if you're listening, and Larry, it might be time to go ahead and pull out the Rolodex and go and nudge somebody somewhere. And I'm telling you, this one is pissing me off. I went to my son who has a gaming desktop. All right. And it's a really good machine. It annoyed me to no end. What the heck are you doing still on Windows 10 20H2?
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
3 years ago. I mean, come on, kid. Can we please stay up to date? Can we please make certain that all the security updates are there? Can we please make sure that you're not going, because I'm telling you, you bring a bug onto my network and you're cut off. You ain't never getting back on. All right. You ain't never getting back on until I have a chance to absolutely, take out the SSD in your machine and set it on fire. And then I'll think about whether or not I'm going to give you a new one and put you back on the network.
But not before you read him the Riot Act.
Yes. And boy, did I. But oh my God. Oh my God. And then don't get me started about Microsoft and their doggone hardware requirements. They say that a processor is supported, but yet the configuration that I've got, regardless of the fact that it's just been maxed out, won't upgrade because it says the processor is not supported. But the processor is supported because I've gone and I've checked. All right.
Well, and there's a whole larger situation around PCs in general. Yeah, obviously there's the OS versions and what supports what and what doesn't support what. But on top of all that, if you go to buy one, try to figure out Intel's model numbers.
Oh, please.
And understand, what a U series versus an H series versus an i7 versus an i5, and they might be different in this, but they're similar in that. And it's gotten to the point where everybody's so convinced at trying to impress us with their nonsense.
You're
pretty much.
Smalls. I mean, honest to God, please.
This is not consumer friendly, kids, at all.
It's not consumer friendly, and it is a big deal. All right,
it is a big deal,
especially when you go to get tricked. Tries to help you support something.
People get tricked too because they buy something they think is one thing, but it's not really that, because it's misleading because you didn't look at all the sub details about the model number and what the model number meant, and it just goes on and on and on.
Right.
So please, kids, little more consistency, a little more simplicity.
It's time. Please get us on a standardized versioning system, because what you're doing right now.
Yeah, I really wanted to go back to more like the old school stuff that we used to do. It was much clearer.
3.1,
Just follow
3.1.
Apple. They do it
Yes.
right.
They really do. It's
Don't
very
go back
consistent.
to the year Windows, like 2000 Windows
Oh, I'm
Server
with you.
2003.
I'm with you.
No,
Don't
Windows
do that.
11, Windows 11.1.2. Apple does it right, Larry. You're correct. So, anyway, but speaking of another moment, all right.
Yeah.
This
We're
one
in.
was really, this one really kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Grinds my gears.
Yeah, there's a company out there called Casetify.
Yes.
All right. And a company called dbrand. And apparently Casetify.
Let's talk about what they do first. What they
right.
what they
Casetify.
do.
Right. I mean, they make smartphone accessories, right?
And cases.
Right. And cases and whatnot.
Cases and wraps and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yep.
So that dbrand, who is very well known, every dang on Linus Tech Tips you watch, probably has an ad for it. So dbrand has long had a partnership with Zach Nelson of Jerry Rig Everything. Really good, by the way, really great channel, and he's a really, really good guy. But he is famous for doing all the phone teardowns from the iPhone 15 Pro, all the way back, to the iPhone 14 and so on and so forth. So he's been doing this for a while, and he partnered with dbrand in order to bring out these skins for your phones that basically have the internals of your phones on the outside of your phone. So what Zach discovered was that Casetify was basically ripped the design literally off of dbrand. Okay. Now,
nice.
How would you know this? Well, Zach.
All you gotta do is look.
I was going to say Zach put Easter eggs in the work he did with dbrand with several of his catchphrases, like like the screen's made of glass and glass breaks, or something like that.
Right.
If you've watched one of his videos, you know what I'm talking about. All right. So Casetify was literally ripped the design off, copy and pasted it. So this kind of gets me further. So Zach and dbrand are suing Casetify. Casetify then had a DDoS attack. As well, that's what they said it was. Okay, they actually took their website down, and since taking the X-ray cases off of their website.
Sure.
This gets even worse. iFixit has also joined in with dbrand because Casetify was using, let's see, now applicant unauthorized use of iFixit's X-rays of the iPhone sourced from Creative Electron. So, Casetify is not a good company, folks. You don't do that. I mean, what's even worse too is they didn't even do it good.
Yeah, they ought to be.
No, they didn't do it well at all. Not at all.
I mean, and Zach himself, if you watch, Zach's got a great video out on Jerry Rig Everything about this. If you watch that, he literally shows you how the different Easter eggs and stuff he found on Casetify's own design. Of course, now you can't go to Casetify to see that, but this will be settled, and I think it's supposed to be in the 7 figures.
They'll settle for less, but they'll get something.
Casetify is a billion-dollar company, so it's not gonna sink them. But I would hesitate to buy stuff off of Casetify.
Yeah.
Well, this certainly raises questions, doesn't it? If nothing else, it raises questions.
Yep.
And that's not good. And it seems very clumsy, but we'll see how this plays out. But I think it's pretty cut and dry the way it's been presented. So
yeah. I mean, you can see it. I mean, they've proven it. It's like it's one of those things. Any defense lawyer is going to look at that and go like, how much do you want? That's what's going to happen. I mean, if I was a lawyer, I wouldn't even take the case for defense.
Yeah, probably not.
But So that's it's going to be interesting to
It's
see how that
unfortunate.
sorts out.
Right.
It's
Now, we've got
unfortunate
three
in this day and
different
age.
right. We've got three different articles that we're citing. Each one is confirms the blatant design ripoff that Casetify is doing of DRAM products. It also gives a different insights and takes on what's going on and why. They are from Tech Times, 9 to 5 Google, and there's even some blatant examples on Twitter or X that you can see. So there you go. I want to go ahead and also, Larry, I don't want to make a big deal of this, but I do want to.
No. I got it. Yeah, I'm fine with it. Yeah.
Okay, good. I do want to go ahead and indicate, that you mentioned earlier that you're going to go ahead and you got yourself a Surface Pro 9. What's up with that, and why did you go back to it?
Well, it's a long story. I'm not going to bore you with it, but the bottom line is I don't have a Surface Pro 8 anymore. I thought I could get by with a different computer I had, but the real deal is I love Surface products. I don't know. I know they're not the best. I know they're not the fastest. I get all that. You can buy a whole lot more for your money in a high-end Lenovo or something. But there's just, to me, something about a Surface product. You get the updates from Microsoft. They're built right in. The firmware, everything's all built right into one update. You don't have to go out and scrape around looking on somebody's website or installing a Dell update app or something. It's all built in. It's all clean. It comes with very, very little bloatware. Only Microsoft's own bloatware does it come with, like Xbox and all that other crap. But other than that, and I just told myself, look, life's short. I'm going back to a Surface for my Windows device because I can take it with me. I go to a lot of meetings. I don't have to take the MacBook Pro out of the dock and deconfigure it from the Apple Studio display. I just pick this thing up off my desk and go. Right. And I will admit, I don't think there's a better note-taking tablet out there, unless it's the iPad.
Yeah, I actually like the iPad for writing better, but those are all touch feel kind of things. I've had that conversation many times.
But what I think Chris wanted to know is maybe some of the differences that I found between the 8 and 9. And folks, I'll tell you, there are very few. There's one big major thing. There's a few minor ones. I think the SP9 is way more evolution than revolution when you compare it with its predecessor. Mm-hmm. The biggest upgrade is actually the addition. They're putting their ARM-based Surface Pro 9, which used to be the Surface Pro X. That's actually part of the Surface Pro 9 line now. So, I mean, this is the first Surface Pro per se with 5G connectivity. Right. Price-wise, I don't know. They went up a couple of bucks. A lot of screaming and whining because they jumped the price of the version with the 5G connectivity with the SQ in it up $300. So people are going to always whine. Let them whine. The display is on all three.
It's a little bigger too than the 8, isn't it?
Yeah. Size-wise, I actually have the specs on it. It's just millimeters bigger. It's not and it's mostly in thickness, I think. Chris.
It is thicker. Yeah.
Yeah. If you look at the display, all three of them are the same. The last year's this year, and the Pro 9 with 5G.
And they're beautiful displays, folks. They really are.
Oh no, that's another reason. The drivers, the graphics drivers in this machine will drive my Apple Studio display beautifully, just like a MacBook Pro.
Well, let me
add something. They go a little higher than the MacBook Pro.
Let me add something to that, Larry, because that's actually useful. I have the 5G version, the SP9 5G version, and even with that 5G version, it will drive my 49-inch wide 4K 5K monitor. It drives the dang thing along with the screen, the laptop screen. Yeah. That's something I've got a previous generation HP from work that won't do that. So
where I'm going with this last ship is I'm in the midst of researching who's got the best KVM for me, and I'm going to put a KVM on this and have
awesome
MacBook Pro on one side of the monitor, this on the other side, and be able to just boom, boom back and forth. And
yeah,
it seemed like the battery life between the 8 and the 9, maybe a half an hour less with the 9. But if you get the 5G that Chris does, you're going to get about 4 more hours, which is really a big deal. Cameras, they're all the same. They have a really good camera. They have a 5 megapixel front and the 10 megapixel in the rear. All of them have Windows Hello. There's an addition with the 5G, and I know Chris knew this already, but it does have the Windows Studio effects on it.
It does.
It does not.
It has the audio. So the Intel-based ones don't, because they don't have the NPU.
Right.
The ARM-based one has an NPU as part of it. So you have the studio effects, which is basically everything from audio filtering to handling the background, behind you in a meeting. Right. And it's all done in hardware. So it's much more effective than what you would get out of a software-only solution.
Yeah, and the ports, they've moved the USB ports around a little bit. They've I think they put a nano SIM slot on the 5G one, didn't they, Chris?
There is a SIM slot, and it is on the back. It's in the same area that the SSD is in.
Yeah, it is.
Well, you know what? They looking at Microsoft specs, they actually, unless this is a misprint, and it could be, they say they're identical in size, 11.3 by 8.2 by 0.27.
They are.
They're identical.
They're sharing the same chassis. They all share the same chassis.
Yeah, and the pound, they're all the same size, or poundage. They're like almost 2 pounds. I don't know. It's just the Surface Pro. Once you've owned one, it's kind of tough to go back. I don't know that if I was Windows only, I couldn't make it my daily driver, I don't think, without a monitor. But boy, for travel, it's just smooth. It really is a beautiful machine.
I will tell you,
I love it. And it's just a matter of going back to it. I shouldn't have ever left it.
Well, I will tell you that I kind of bounce back and forth between my Yoga Book and my Surface Pro 9 5G for note taking. Both of them are really excellent experiences for that.
Yeah, it truly is.
They are both very, very nice. So
you have the better really pen though for the Yoga Book, right? You have the better pen. Yeah, I need to get that.
Yeah. We can talk offline about which pen to get. But I will tell you that the standard pen that comes with it is okay. It's not great.
But the pen with the Surface Book, I'm not a fan of the drafting pencil shape, but you don't have to be. You can actually use
flat pencil.
I don't like the feel of that, but it's very sensitive and it's very good. But for me, I don't like that shape. But I'll tell you what I was going to say, Larry. If you don't like that, you can actually go back and buy the first generation Surface Pro pen, and it works great.
Well, you know what? I've had the iPad Pro and I've used the Apple Pencil, and as much of an Apple fan as I am, this proves it's all about preferences, individual. I like the little Slim Pen 2 feel more than I like the Apple Pencil.
Yes, see, and I don't.
And I know you don't.
It's very uncomfortable for me to hold that flat drafting pencil kind of shape. But I will say, as far as the touch and feel on the screens, they're both great.
I like
the writing style is great on both of them. I mean, I can't complain.
Yeah, no, it's a good product. Surface Pro
is absolutely is.
It is, and we will look forward to whatever size or style write up you can provide.
Oh yeah, I'd be glad to. Yeah.
On the site.
Since I missed it on
Larry,
awesome.
which model did you buy?
I got the i7 with the one thing I'll give Microsoft credit for, to interject in my own speech here. They do use the highest upgrade for the processor, highest version of the processor they can for the Surface Pro, whereas for the Surface laptop, they use a kind of a dumbed down version. It's not nearly as good, I don't think. But I got the i7, 512 and 16 gigs, which is fine for what I'm going to use it for, I think.
Absolutely.
It's if you are looking for this, I will tell you, that if you buy this retail price from Mr. Microsoft without any sales going on, it's $21.99. If you do their Black Friday special, they'll take $400 off. If you go to Costco, it's 400. They have a bundle deal. You buy them all together, the signature keyboard with the slim pen and the device, and it's $300 more off. So I couldn't. That's $700 off of retail. I couldn't pass it up. It's a great deal.
It is. It is a good deal, and I'm
Yep.
glad that you're back in the Surface family. And you should
Me
know,
too.
And you should know that you will be glad to have an extra 3 year of firmware and so updates.
As we talked about
Yeah.
last week?
Week before.
Yeah.
Week
Week
before.
before.
I believe. Yeah. So
Yeah,
there you go.
It's great.
There you go. You're gonna be
And a cool thing with it is if that Iris XE graphics chipset isn't good enough, it supports an external graphic GPU, so you can
Right.
add that to
Yes,
the,
it
to the
does.
setup.
That's
Yep,
true.
it does. And speaking of Black Friday shopping kind of things.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and move us to our pick of the week segment. I want to go ahead, though, very quickly remind everyone that our pick of the weeks, our picks of the week are typically hardware, software, and other items of interest that we individually have purchased and actually used in our and like enough that we want to recommend them to you, our growing listener base. These are not paid advertisements or any kind or anything with any kind of affiliated marketing relationship. These are things that we sincerely believe in, and we bring them to you at the end of each show. Why?
Because we
like you.
Thank you. So
Yes.
this week and over the next 4 weeks, we're going to do something just a little bit different with our picks of the week. I have asked our editorial crew, all the usual suspects here, to go ahead and scour all of the internets, all of them, and find your top 3 to 5 Black Friday deals of the year. These are things that people should just absolutely go bananas over. If they're looking for that kind of thing, that's the one to get. Joel, you're first on the list this year. What did you find?
All right. So I'm gonna go from my 5th to my top.
Okay.
My 5th position is Drink Coffee, Work Hard mug from one of my favorite coffee companies, Viking Coffee, based in Michigan. This is a dark green mug. It's $30 on Viking Coffee. And hey, I just got probably the first order that I bought from them at the Columbus Coffee Festival.
Okay.
But I ordered some more coffee. And not only did I get my coffee, but I got a sample of another coffee and a really nice note. And that's because this is run by Marissa and Evan Armstrong. Basically, it's a small business, so you can support small business by buying this mug and their coffees. My favorite being Refined Savage Old Man Strength, because I am an old man, older man. But that's my favorite coffee for them. So this is a great mug to have a cup of that in. Maybe I might, hopefully if they have them still post Christmas, after I get gift cards and stuff, I might buy one if they still have them in stock. But their coffee is phenomenal. So that's my number 5. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on each one of these. Some of them I've already talked about on the show here. The next one is Shock's Open Run bone conducting headphones. Now, I don't have these particular headphones, but I do have their Open Com headphones that I use for Zoom calls on a daily basis for work. And they are great. They're a little bit weird if you've never used bone conduction headphones before. Probably the best feature is I like being able to hear what's going on in the house as well as what's going on in my call all at the same time without having to pull the ear cup off my head.
Right.
So,
right. This is sort of like the voices in you can now listen to the voices in your head in stereo.
That's right.
Yeah.
So these are on the Cyber Monday deal for $89.95. So go out on Amazon.com. Highly recommend any of Shock's products. So number 3, as well as number 2, I've talked about before as picks on the show. Number 3 is the RTL SDR Blog V3. Just talked about this a couple weeks ago, $43.95, and you can mess with a radio pretty much anywhere in the spectrum on this with this little thing with using your laptop, or I actually kind of like to use it more with my phone, especially since it's easier to get things going up on Avara 80s SB, so that I can see what planes are flying overhead. So, but that's number 3. Number 2, I've also talked about is the Anker Power Bank 737. This is a fantastic power bank. It will be able to deliver up to 140 watts via the top USB-C port. It actually has 2 USB-C ports as well as a USB-A port. I use my MacBook's USB-C charger typically to charge it, and I can charge this sucker in 30 minutes. Nice. So there right now that is I believe, let's click the linky link. It is now $92. Cheaper than when I got it on Amazon.com today. And the number 1, I'm not even going to mention the price on that. By the way, all the prices and links to these things are on iTechGear.org to save Chris some work. Is my 6th generation 11-inch iPad Pro with the M2 chip in it. I thought I liked my Air 4. I like this much better.
Yeah.
It's probably the biggest thing is the chip in it for me. But a lot of the other features on it, the iPad Pro is by far one of the best tablets on the market. We all love our iPads.
Joel isn't the biggest Apple fan at times, so for him to say that
this
is a big deal.
Yeah, I am not. Hey, Google, if the Pixel tablet was this good, I already bought it. But I'm not yet. So I'm not saying it's bad product. It's not a bad product. I actually kind of want one of those.
It's a different market.
But this is the one that I use this on the daily. So it's one of my favorite devices that I have.
Nice.
And that's it.
And that's
it.
Oh,
wait. I've got one honorable mention, mostly because this surprised the heck out of me. On Amazon.com. On Thursday, I'm sitting after dinner. We're after the family left, we're of course decorating the house. And one thing I noticed was, I probably could have made what I had work, but I didn't want to unplug in the cord going into the entertainment center, which has one of my routers in it and stuff like that. So I just plugged it in directly into the wall at first, but I thought, well, let me see what kind of sales we got on smart plugs. And I found and bought Casa. Let me go back to the orders on my page. Casa Smart Plug Mini 15 amp smart home Wi-Fi outlet that works with Alexa, Google Home. Uses it. You can use if this, then that. No hub required. $21.99, and you get 4 of them.
It's kind of cool.
Really great devices. I love them. And for $21,
not bad. Not bad at all.
And Chris found the outdoor one for $16.
I have the outdoor ones, for my outdoor Christmas stuff.
And those are really, really nice because you can turn things on and off with your phone or your hub or whatever it is that you're using on your for your smart devices there on the house. So that article written by Joel actually comes out tomorrow, either at 6 or 8 a.m. Central Time. If you're looking for something You'll have all the links and all of the ability to take a look at those things. And we will be bringing those to folks between now and December 18th, in time for you to go and make all of the appropriate purchases if you find something interesting among our picks. And that, kids, is the show. This has been the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 69. Like sands through the hourglass, so is it at OpenAI. Yaiy-yaiy-yaiy. Recorded live Sunday, November 26, 2023, live from the newly wintry iTechGear Central. And for Mr. Larry McJunkin, Mr. Chris Gavula, and Brother Joe McLaughlin, I want to say we'll see you guys next time.